A very good afternoon to all. Welcome to class 12th economics class. We are doing the revision of the chapter national income. So here we are doing the national income revision. And in the last class, I told you about how to compute the national income from income method. So now I'm taking how to compute the national income from expenditure method. So estimation of national income from expenditure method. So we all know that if we are following the income method, then we have to start with the NDPFC, that is domestic income, which we have to compute. But when we are following the expenditure method, in that case, what we have to do is we have to just find out by default GDP MP, which means by default GDP MP will be computed. By default GDP MP will be computed. The question arises, but how it will be computed? How we are going to get the GDP MP by default through the expenditure method? So for that, what we have to do is just see to it. What we have to do is we have to add 5 things. You remember those 5 things? Very first thing which we have to do is, which we have to take is private final consumption expenditure. Private final consumption expenditure, which means actually we are taking the expenditure because it is the expenditure method of calculating the national income. And because it is the expenditure method of calculating the national income, what we are doing is we are taking the expenditures and we will be adding all these expenditures together. We are taking the expenditures and we will be adding all these expenditures together, and then we will be able to get the national income from expenditure method, right? So here, first of all, we are taking the expenditure, that is private final consumption expenditure. Can you tell me what is the other name of private final consumption expenditure? We can add personal final consumption expenditure. Even you can find out in the question household final consumption expenditure. Even there can be individual. There can be individual final consumption expenditure. So it is all about that. Private final consumption expenditure or personal final consumption expenditure, household final consumption expenditure, or individual final consumption expenditure. Means this is ultimately the expenditure of all individuals, all of us. This is the expenditure of all households or all individuals, all of us, that what expenditures we are incurring on buying goods and services. Okay, the second expenditure that we have to add to find out the GDP MP from expenditure method is government final consumption expenditure. That is government's final consumption expenditure. So here we will be taking the expenditure of the government, that what amount of expenditure the government is spending on consumption expenditure. Even it is also called government, I'm writing in short, government's demand for goods. Government's demands for goods and service. It is also known as this. Government's demand for goods and service means what amount of expenditure government is incurring for various goods and services. Because you all know that government also bear a lot of cost on providing the service to the people. So what amount government is incurring as an expenditure on providing the service and goods to various people is the government final consumption expenditure. So first was private final consumption expenditure. Second was government final consumption expenditure. The third is gross domestic fixed capital formation. Gross domestic fixed capital formation. This is the third point, gross domestic fixed capital formation, which means what amount of investment expenditure the firms are doing on fixed assets. Please note it, what amount of investment expenditures the firms are doing on fixed assets, on purchasing the fixed assets. That is basically the gross domestic fixed capital formation, right? And if we add here the next concept, that is change in stock. Change in stock is basically how to compute change in stock? Closing stock minus opening stock. So change in stock, which is even also known as inventory investment. Inventory investment, which is the other name of change in stock. So that is closing minus opening stock or inventory investment. This also we have to take, right? So private final consumption expenditure, government final consumption expenditure, gross domestic fixed capital formation, change in stock, that is closing stock minus opening stock, that is your change in stock. Then here comes the next point, फिर आता है हमारे पास next point, and that is net exports. Net exports, which are exports minus imports. That is the last point in the expenditure method, right? So net exports, which are exports minus imports. All right. So ultimately we have to see that whenever we have to compute any aggregate, I'm not talking about just national income, but that can be the any aggregate through the expenditure method, where the question asked about either specifically ask about follow the expenditure method, or basically ask about that you have to not, if you don't want to follow the expenditure, but still if you see that the question is comprising of these instruments of expenditure method, these components, then we have to follow the expenditure method only, followed by private final consumption expenditure, government's final consumption expenditure, gross domestic fixed capital formation, change in stock, and net exports. This constitute and gives you GDP MP. I hope this is clear. ये बनता है और ये सबको ऐड करके क्या मिलता है आपको? We get GDP MP. I think it is now clear to all. Now the question arises, if we add these two elements. See, if we add these two elements, अगर हम इन दो elements को add करें, कौन कौन से? ये दो. If we add these two elements, कौन कौन सा? Third and fourth, what we get? See what we get if we add these two elements. So if we add third and fourth item, fourth component, we get, क्या मिलता हम लोगों को? When we add these third and fourth, that is third and fourth, that is gross domestic fixed capital formation and change in stock, we get gross domestic capital formation. Fixed word remove हो जाता है, which means it becomes the complete investment, complete or additional investment, total investment. So if we add these elements third and fourth together, we simply get gross domestic capital formation. And capital formation, do you know the other name? Capital formation is also known as investment. So it can be written as gross domestic investment also, right? So ये चीज ध्यान रखनी है, if we add third and fourth element together, तो fixed word हट जाएगा और ये total बन जाएगा, gross domestic capital formation, right? Now see the next one. If we have to, let me change the color. See, if we have to move from gross to net, तो मैंने आपको लास्ट क्लास में बताया था, deduct depreciation, right? And from net to gross, add depreciation. Same way, if we have to move from factor cost to market price. Factor cost to market price. That is from FC to MP. What will be doing if you are moving from FC to MP? So if I'm moving from FC to MP, that is factor cost to market price. In that case, definitely what I'm going to do is I'm going to add NIT. And we all know what is NIT. That is net indirect taxes. ठीक? और वो कैसे निकलता है? Indirect tax minus subsidies. And last वाला आपका point था, if we have to move from domestic to national, in that case what we will do, add NFIA. NFIA is net factor income from abroad. So I think it is now clear to everybody. So let's move to the other topic. Now see, we were just doing it from this PDF, we were revising it from the PDF. I'm just going to give you an important question revision today, that is whether the GDP can be taken as a welfare. So we are talking about now GDP and welfare. You all must know already about that and must remember that GDP is basically the goods gross domestic product, which is the total money value of all goods and services that are being produced in our economy, right? That are being produced in our economy, right? But how GDP is connected to welfare? When we simply say that how GDP is connected to welfare, then we say welfare of the economy means welfare of the social being or welfare of the all people in our economy, right? And when we are talking about like how GDP is connected with the welfare, we simply give the answer that GDP and welfare are of course two parts but cannot be taken together. The question is very simple, that why GDP and welfare cannot be taken together. The question is very simple, that is why GDP and welfare cannot be taken together. So let's study that now. GDP and welfare, the topic. Okay, first of all, tell me in your point of view, do we have to take GDP and welfare together? Which means, does GDP shows the welfare of the economy? If suppose there is rising GDP in our economy, the rising GDP can show us actually the welfare of the economy. Is it true that GDP is going to show us, if GDP is rising, it will be always for the welfare of the economy, or it is always showing the welfare of the economy? No, it is to some extent only, which means we can simply say that no, GDP cannot always reflect welfare because of, very important question, because of its limitations. Because of its limitations. Now let us study what are these limitations that we say that GDP cannot be taken into account as a welfare for the economy always. What are the limitations do you find there that we say that GDP is not always for the welfare of the economy? Because this is very, very important question. I'm telling you, you know, in CBSE board, this question comes almost every year to some extent, whether in 1 mark, in 3 mark, 4 mark, 6 mark, कहीं ना कहीं किसी ना किसी मार्क में क्वेश्चन में you will be definitely getting this question for sure. So this is a very important question. So we'll simply say that no, GDP cannot always reflect the welfare because of its limitations. Now we are going to discuss that what are the limitations of GDP that we say that it is not being taken into the welfare of the economy. Let us see what are the limitations in that. One of the limitation, rising population. Yes, this is the one of the limitations of GDP, rising population. You know, if suppose, if you observe that GDP in the economy is increasing by 1%, in a year it increased by 1%, and we are happy that GDP is rising. We are doing more production, GDP is increasing. But will that GDP's 1% rise will give us the welfare if we compare it with the population and we observe that population of the economy has even increased by 4%, more than 1%? Definitely in that case, it is not to be termed or it is not to be taken as a welfare for the economy. Definitely not. It will not be taken as a welfare of the economy. Why it will not be taken as a welfare of the economy? Because rising population doesn't mean that uh, rising GDP doesn't mean that it is showing the welfare for the economy. If the population is also increasing side by side, जिसका मतलब है अगर हम ज्यादा डिमांड कर रहे हैं, जीडीपी बढ़ रहा है, तो आप ये भी तो देखो ज्यादा डिमांड इसलिए नहीं बढ़ रहा कि प्रोडक्शन हो रही है, हम लोग बाहर ज्यादा एक्सपोर्ट वगैरह कर रहे हैं, नो, इसलिए हो रहा है बिकॉज हमारे प्रोडक्ट्स की डिमांड भी ज्यादा बढ़ रही है ड्यू टू मोर पॉपुलेशन इन द इकोनॉमी. So rising population is basically one of the point where we say that it is a limitation for the welfare of the GDP. That GDP cannot show us the welfare if the percentage rise in population is even more than the percentage rise in GDP. Now, let us see the second point. Change in prices. Sometimes we are happy watching that GDP has increased. The money value of goods and services has increased. Earlier, GDP was of rupees, suppose 1 lakh. This year, suppose GDP is of rupees 3 lakhs. Wow, the GDP has increased. We are happy. But don't forget that the rising GDP or the more money value of goods and services may include the inflationary prices of the commodities, right? That may include the inflationary prices of the economies. So when it includes the inflationary prices also of the economies, the inflation is also being included there. Don't you think it is not at all for the welfare of the economy? Because that is giving us the inflationary pressure also. That is causing the inflationary pressure also. So it is not for the betterment of the economy. So change in prices is also one of the point where I simply say that the GDP cannot be taken as a welfare, right? Okay. So next point can be non-monetary exchanges. You remember non-monetary exchanges? There are various activities which we do in our economy which are non-monetary exchanges. For example, housewife services, leisure time activities. For example, in free time, we are giving, suppose, dance classes in the free time for free, or I'm giving the painting classes, or I'm teaching for free in the. So these are all the non-monetary exchanges, which are not being measured in terms of money. Don't you think these kind of transactions we are not included in GDP, and because of these transactions being not included in GDP, there would be the underestimation of GDP? There will be the underestimation of GDP. Underestimation of GDP means when we simply say that the GDP is not being considering the non-monetary exchanges, because there are some transactions which are actually non-monetary exchanges. But what we are doing, we are not considering or we are not taking those transactions which are actually non-monetary exchanges. So GDP is of course not giving us a true result of welfare, because these things must also be included. But because of lack of data available, we are not including these non-monetary exchanges in calculating the GDP. So somewhere the GDP is under-evaluated. Under-evaluated means we are not considering the complete money of GDP. Okay, next, externalities. Externalities, remember what are externalities? Which can be positive as well as negative externalities. We are not considering the externalities also in the GDP. Externalities are basically the things which can affect our GDP either in a positive or a negative way. For example, we have good industries in our economy, and we are happy that we have more industries now in the economy, so we will be producing more goods and services. We are happy with that. No doubt it's a point of happiness, but don't forget, if these industries are causing pollution to the economy, because in these industries we are doing the production activity, and these industries are wasting a lot of things and ultimately creating pollution in the economy. That's a negative externality which is not being considered while calculating the GDP, which is not being considered while calculating the GDP. Same way, there are some positive externalities also. For example, the public parks around our homes, these are also the positive externalities. In the public parks, we have a lot of, trees, greenery, a garden is there. Many trees are there which are giving us various fruits, flowers. These are not being considered in calculation of GDP, but should be there because it's a positive aspect which keeps us healthy, fresh, and we are efficient in doing our activities. So that's why we say that externalities are also not being considered while calculating the GDP, so as it cannot be the actual reflection of welfare. Okay, can we have the next point now? See the next point. The next point is now, for example, we have hazardous production of harmful commodities. Harmful commodities. We have harmful commodities also in our economy which are produced. If we are saying that we are producing fruits and vegetables, we are producing clothes, we are producing or manufacturing other goods, don't forget we are producing drugs also in the economy. We are producing some harmful substances, harmful commodities also in the economy, which may be harmful for a consumer. But while calculating the GDP, we are talking about the complete gross domestic product, which means the total production of all goods and services in the economy, all goods and services in the economy. Then don't you think when we're talking about all goods and services in the economy, at that time we are taking the hazardous commodities also or the harmful commodities also in the GDP, which can never be the welfare for the economy, which can never be there for the welfare. So as the GDP cannot reflect the welfare. All right. I think these 5 points are enough that we say that no, GDP cannot be considered as an index of welfare because of the limitations which are involved in GDP. So as these are the limitations and we have to see to it, due to these limitations, we say that GDP cannot be considered as an index of economic welfare, right? Okay. Next question, next topic, that is GDP at current prices and GDP at constant prices. GDP at current prices and GDP at constant prices. See, now what is GDP at current price and what is GDP at constant price? When we say GDP at current price, can you tell me what is the other name of GDP at current price? What do we say GDP at current price? And even what do we say GDP at constant price? Because you can have the difference also in the exam, in the boards. Let us see what is the GDP at current price. The GDP at current price is actually nominal GDP. All right. And when we talk about GDP at constant price, that is real GDP. Yes. So GDP at constant price is basically nominal GDP, and GDP at current prices is basically nominal GDP, and GDP at constant price is basically the real GDP. Tell me that in which of the GDP, whether nominal or real, we are taking the value of current price. We are taking the value of current price in which of these GDP, whether current price or constant price. We are taking the value of GDP of which price? Current or nominal? Tell me, in which? Nominal or real? See, in nominal GDP, we compute the GDP with current prices, and in real GDP, we take the value of base year for calculating the real GDP. So in real GDP, what we do, what is the production in the current year into what was the price in the base year? Let's see. In real GDP, what we do, production of current year multiply by base year price. Base year price. You will be definitely getting real GDP from this. सीधा सीधा real GDP आ जाएगा आपके पास. And if we have to compute the nominal GDP, what we will do? Production of current year in units, मतलब कितना बनाया आपने, multiply by current year price. Current year price. अच्छा, इसको हम लोग नॉमिनल नेशनल इनकम और रियल नेशनल इनकम के बेसिस पे भी कर सकते हैं. That will also be same if you go for the nominal national income and real national income. Clear? Okay. Now let's move further. Next question arises, price index. Price index. Do you know price index? How to find out the price index? How do we compute or how do we find out the price index? Tell me. How do we compute or find out the price index? Yeah, याद है आपको? Remember the nominal GDP upon real GDP multiplied by 100. Nominal GDP divided by, wait a minute, divided by real GDP, right? Multiplied by 100. Multiplied by 100. So this is the formula for the price index. Now what is the other name of price index? There is one more name of price index. Price index is also known as GDP deflator. GDP deflator. So price index is also known as GDP deflator, which is being computed by nominal GDP upon real GDP into 100. Now this price index we have to compute. Suppose GDP deflator we have to compute. Nominal GDP is given in the question. Real GDP is given in the question. Now what is this 100? Please tell me. What is this 100? This 100 is actually the base year price. We are assuming to be 100. Base year price, which we are actually assuming it to be 100 only. All right. I hope this is clear to all. Okay. आगे चलते हैं next topic पे. अच्छा, circular flow of income. You all remember circular flow of income in the two sector model? How circular flow of income works? In the two sector economy, the circular flow of income works in a two-way. Considering, see, when we are talking about circular flow of income, it works as, let us do that, circular flow of income. Now how do this circular flow of income works? On the one hand, what we are taking household, because we are taking two sector model. On the one hand we are taking household, and on the other hand we are considering firms. Now what happens is, the household provides various, wait a minute, household provides various goods to firm, various things to firm, as like firms also provide a lot of things to household. Kaise? First of all, household provides the factor services to firm. Now just have a look at this picture for circular flow of income. We have two sectors, household sector and business firm, and we are taking the circular flow of income in two sector model. the household sector provides these various services to business sector. Can you have a look at this? Let me just annotate that for your thing. See, ये वाला line देखना आपने first. The household sector is providing various services to business, for example, labor, land, capital, enterprise, and in return, what firm is doing? Firm is actually giving wages and salaries, rent, interest, profits, which means for these factor services, the firm is providing the factor payment to household. This is the one round of generating for going income from one sector to another and reaching back again. Now, secondly, business is making various goods and services and selling all these goods and services to households, right? In return, what household is paying? The household is paying the consumption expenditure to business. The household is paying the consumption expenditure, उनको goods को purchase करने के लिए, the household is paying the consumption expenditure to business. So circular flow of income, which works in a two-sector model, simply tells us that the income flows from one sector to another. The income moves from one sector to another. That is known as circular flow of income. I hope this is clear to all.